Like a queen, like a queen, like a queen. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I have not uploaded a video in over 2 months, but as most of y'all know, I was 9 months pregnant the last time I uploaded a video, and I was due on August 14th, and I actually did deliver my baby girl Hailey on August 14th. So today I'm actually just gonna go ahead and share with you guys my labor and delivery story. I did share like just a tiny little bit about it on Instagram a few days after she was born, but I just wanted to go ahead and make a full video dedicated to my labor and delivery story with my second child. Her name is Hailey. Like I said, she was born August 14th at 6:35 a.m. And that was actually her due date based on my last menstrual period. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know up front, the labor went nothing like I planned at all. Nothing like I planned. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start with how I planned it actually to go. So our actual birth plan was for me to deliver at the same birthing center which I delivered my son at. So clearly that did not happen. Like I said, it didn't go anything like I planned. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just start with kind of how the labor started. But I actually want to give a little bit of backstory too. My entire pregnancy and the last couple months of my pregnancy, it was like 2 or 3 people that just kept having dreams or visions that my labor was gonna go really, really fast. So I didn't really think anything of it. My mom, one of my friends, I also had dreams about it as well. And also a dream that she was gonna be a really big baby. That wasn't true, but the labor did go fast. So part of it was true basically, but I'm gonna just go ahead and start at the beginning. So I wasn't really having any labor symptoms prior to the onset of my labor, which was at 4 a.m. on August 14th, which was a Monday. This was the day that she was born. So at 4 a.m. I actually woke up out of my sleep. I had just went to sleep a couple hours before that, maybe like 1 o'clock we went to sleep, because I had this really, really strong nesting instinct for the last couple of weeks and I just could not sleep. Like I would just stay up cleaning and organizing. So at 4 a.m. that's when I woke up out of my sleep and I started feeling like some dull, crampy type contractions. They weren't very painful. At first, when I noticed them, the first one that I actually have timed, because I still have the contraction timer app that I had, was at 4:06 a.m. So the crazy part is, even though the contractions weren't extremely painful, they were probably like a 3 to a 4 when I noticed them on a scale of 1 to 10. They were still coming consistently every 1.5 to 3 minutes, which is crazy. The first contraction I have time is at 4:06. The second one was at 4:08. The next one's 4:11, 4:15, 4:17. So it was like a frequency of about 2 to 4 minutes apart, but mainly about 2 minutes to be honest, based on what I have in my phone from what I was timing. So my husband was asleep in the bed. I got out of the bed when I started noticing the contractions, because at first I was just sitting there and I'm like, okay, I think these are contractions, this might be labor. So I got out of the bed because at first they weren't very painful, but they started picking up very, very fast. Like the contractions were the same distance apart, however the pain was increasing very, very rapidly. So when I first noticed them, like I said, they were maybe like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Nothing worse than just like some regular period cramps or something like that. So I ended up getting out of the bed and I actually got my birthing ball and I was just swaying on the birthing ball. I also was going in and out of the restroom. If you have ever been in labor, you know, like sometimes you have the urge to, you know, go to the restroom because your body's like cleaning itself out. So I was in and out of my restroom, which is the door behind me. So it wasn't too far. I was trying to stay quiet. I was just laboring, just breathing through the contractions. They were coming consistently, but they weren't like unbearable at this point. So from about 4 o'clock, because I have my notes on my phone, from about 4 o'clock to around 4:40, let's see. Yes, so at 4:40 is when I actually lost my mucus plug. I was sitting on the toilet because, like I said, I just kept going in and out the restroom, so I ended up on the toilet a lot. So I was on the toilet And that's when I actually lost my mucus plug. And my husband was asleep, like I said. So from 4 to 4:40, he was asleep. I didn't really bother him. I was just breathing through the contractions. I was doing just fine, nothing too painful. And I was just gonna wait till the last minute to go to the birthing center anyway, because I just wanted to make sure I didn't spend too much time there, because I have a 2-year-old and I just didn't want to be away from him for too long. So at 4:40, that's when I lost my mucus plug, and I remember coming out of the restroom and letting my husband know I think he might need to start putting things in the car. I just lost my mucus plug, and it had some blood in it. And I could just tell that the contractions were getting more painful. So about 20 minutes after that, so at around 4:59, this is the exact time that we called my midwife. I had gotten in the tub between the time that I lost my mucus plug and the time that I called my midwife. I had ran some water in the tub. I set up my diffuser. I was diffusing some lavender and clary sage essential oil. I put a couple of drops in the tub, and I was just sitting there just trying to labor through it, because it was kind of taking the pain off. I would say around 5 o'clock when I called my midwife, the pain level was between like a 6 and a 7. So it at least doubled from 4 o'clock. Like it was much more painful than it started off. And if you don't know, I did have my son at the same birthing center, like I said, all natural. I was in labor 15 hours, and I think I handled it pretty well. Honestly, I feel like I do have a pretty decent pain tolerance, but at this point, at around 5 o'clock, they were getting pretty painful. It was like probably the same amount of pain that I was experiencing like maybe 30 minutes before I went into transition with my son. So it was getting pretty painful. So I actually had my husband, I called him into the restroom, because like I said, I was in the tub at about 5 o'clock, and I had him to call my midwife, because I could not talk through the contractions at this point. So he called her, he let her know that my contractions were about 2 minutes apart, and it had been about an hour since I was in labor. But she should have known, I'm gonna get into that later, but this is my second baby, so it went a lot faster. So she should have taken it a lot more serious than she did. Her response was to give her a call back in 2 hours, that since the contractions had just started, they might begin to space out, which I really didn't understand her logic behind that, because like I said, it's my second baby. Typically second babies come a lot faster than the first. My first labor was 15 hours, so I was thinking this labor would be like maybe 7 or 8 hours, but you will soon find out that is not what happened at all. So we hung up with her. I stayed in the tub. I was just trying to labor in the tub. It was kind of easing the pain, but it got to the point where I couldn't move enough in there. So I ended up getting out of the tub, and I had my birthing ball in my room right next to my bed. So I got back on the birthing ball, and I was just swaying from side to side, just listening to my labor music, trying to tolerate the pain that way. So I want to say about 30 minutes later, yeah, it was about 30 minutes, because I remember I kept looking at my phone like, this cannot be real. Why is this going so slow? Because the pain was getting so much stronger, and it felt like it was just taking forever to go by. So I remember looking at my phone at around 5:30. I would probably say the pain at that point was around a 7 or 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, because the contractions were extremely, extremely strong. Little did I know, I was probably about 7 or 8 centimeters dilated at that time, which is why I was in so much pain, but I didn't know that at the time. So at around 5:30, that's when I got to the point where I was sweating like really, really bad. I was shaking from the pain, and I was just like on the birthing ball. I remember going like this while I was trying to breathe. Typically, I would take a deep breath, like inhale through my nose and blow out through my mouth. I couldn't even get my breathing together because the pain was to the point where I just couldn't handle it. And I felt like it happened so fast, I didn't have time to mentally get into like labor mode and really just prepare myself, because everything was going so fast. So from 5 to 5:30, like I said, the pain increased a lot. I was just sitting there swaying on my birthing ball. I remember getting on and off the edge of the bed, and I just remember my husband trying to hold my hand, and I was just telling him, I need an epidural. This is too painful. I don't remember it being this painful last time. Like I was to the point where I was over it, and I wasn't even in labor, maybe an hour and a half, and I was exhausted. Like I was literally shaking because I was in so much pain. And like I said, I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and I don't remember it being that painful with my first child at all. So he was trying to comfort me because he knows that I don't like hospitals. And of course, I really didn't want an epidural, but at the time I was saying that because I was just over it. So he was just trying to tell me, no, it's okay. You can do it. You're probably over halfway there, Tay. You could do it. You could do it. I just remember him saying, you're probably over halfway there. That's like the one thing that stuck in my head. In my head, I'm like, oh, I probably am. I probably am. Probably like maybe at least 6 centimeters, right? So this was probably around 5:30. So I probably labored another 30 minutes. So at about 6 o'clock, That's when it got to the point where I was like, I cannot do this, Johan. Please, I need to go to the hospital. Johan's my husband's name, if you don't know. I was like, I need to go to the hospital. Please take me to the hospital. That's when he actually started getting up, getting dressed. He was in the restroom brushing his teeth, you know, just doing whatever he had to do. Because I guess he figured I wasn't that far into my labor that I had time. But in my head, I knew it was going fast. Like, I could just tell. I didn't even think about calling my midwife at this point. I was just like, just get me to a hospital. Because I didn't think I was going to make it to the birthing center that's like 20-25 minutes away. And there's a hospital that's like 5-10 minutes down the road. So I was like, I need to get to the hospital. I need an epidural. I cannot breathe. Like, I was getting to the point where I just could not breathe through the contractions. I know I sound weak, but honestly, because it happened so fast, the pain was like really, 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 really intense. My contractions were extremely effective because, like I said, I was in labor really, really fast. So that made them really strong and really painful. So maybe around 6 o'clock, like I said, that's when he was getting dressed in the restroom. That's when I called my grandma. My grandma lives with us, so she was in the other room, but I called her because I didn't know if she was awake. So I called her on the phone. She answers the phone. I'm like, I just remember being like, Grandma, I'm in labor. And she was like, are you okay? I'm like, Grandma, I need to go to the hospital. I'm in pain. I sound calm right now, but I wasn't calm at the time that I was talking to her. Like, you could tell I was really in pain. So she was like, okay, where's Johan? I'm like, Johan's getting dressed, but I need to go to the hospital. He's not listening to me. So she came in the room maybe like 15 minutes after that. So let's say 6:15. She finally comes in my room. And she sees the condition that I'm in. Like, I was sweating. Like I said, I was really, really sweating, and I was shaking, and I was just like, I was tensing up with every contraction. I was doing the opposite of what I was supposed to do, and I just couldn't breathe. I just remember like breathing like this, like just really, 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 really tense. Like, I was not doing what I was supposed to do because I was just in so much pain. I couldn't get my head right. And when my midwife told me to call her back in 2 hours, it kind of just like brought me down. I just thought, like, maybe I'm really not that far in my labor and I'm either being dramatic, or maybe I got weak over the last 2 years and now I can't deal with the pain. Like, this is the stuff I was telling myself in my head. And at the time I was in transition. I didn't even know. That's why I had all this self-doubt. I was probably 8 or 9 centimeters. Of course, I didn't have anybody there to check me, but now that I look back and remembering how I felt during my first labor, I was probably 8 or 9 centimeters when my grandma came in the room. So let's say she came in 6:15, 6:20. I just remember I was sitting on the bed. She was trying to help me breathe. And I was having a really, really, really hard time. And she was just like, Johan, she needs to go to the hospital. He was like, no, she's okay, or whatever. So that's when I just kept telling them, I need to go to the hospital. So maybe like 10 minutes passed. Let's say it was 6:25. This was probably the last contraction I remember having, and that contraction felt so strong, and it felt like it literally lasted forever. So like I said, that contraction, maybe around 6:25, it felt like it was like a 2-minute long contraction. Maybe it was 6:30, to be honest. But at this point, I literally could not breathe, and I was like having a hard time breathing to the point like I got lightheaded, and I was literally like, I think I was really gonna pass out. So my grandma ended up calling 911 because I just knew I was not gonna make it to the hospital. I knew I had to have been like 8, 9, maybe 10 centimeters at this point, because like I was in so much pain and I could just feel the baby just moving down. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna make it to the hospital. So she ends up calling the paramedics like I asked, because my husband wouldn't call because he probably thought, like I said, I was being dramatic. So she got them on the phone. She let them know, you know, like I'm in labor. They were asking, was I pushing? Do they see the baby head? And they were like, no, we don't see the head or anything like that. She's just in a lot of pain. She needs to go to the hospital. That's what my grandma was telling them. Maybe 2 minutes into the conversation, maybe less than that, I was sitting on the edge of my bed right here. And that's when I literally started feeling the urge to bear down and push. And I just could not, like, it was like my body was pushing by itself. And I was on the phone and they heard me grunting. And they were like, is she pushing? Is she pushing? And they were like, my grandma was like, yes. So they got me off of the bed. My grandma was trying to hold me down on the bed because I was sitting up at first, and she was like, you're gonna push the baby out and you're gonna be sitting on the baby's head. So she was trying to hold me down on the bed. I'm trying to fight her to get her off of me. So my husband got me into the restroom, like I said, which is right behind me. And that's when I got on all fours. I pushed one time. Like, I barely felt like I did any pushing. It was like my body was doing the pushing itself. The first time her head came out, the second time she was out. So she was born around 6:35. It literally took, like, the 2 times I pushed was probably less than a minute long, like, honestly, because she just came right out. And I was in shock at this point. I'm like, did I really just deliver a baby? Like, I'm on all fours on my restroom floor. There's nobody here except my husband. My husband was the one who caught the baby, and he's holding her, wrapping her up, doing whatever the dispatch people on the phone are telling him. And they were like, we're right around the corner. We'll be there in like 5 minutes. So they got here at 6:40. So that's why we determined that she was born around 6:35, because it was about 5 minutes after she was born. So the paramedics that came, they were amazing. They helped me deliver the placenta. They got IVs in me. They got our vitals for both me and the baby. We were both stable. They ended up taking me to the hospital of my choice probably about an hour after they got here, maybe 45 minutes after they got here. And they got me stable because I was borderline, I think they call it hypertensive or something. I was shaking really bad, like uncontrollably. So they had to put me in like one of these cool wheelchairs and roll me down the stairs because we have a 2-story. And then I went in the ambulance with the baby, and my husband came about 15 minutes after because he wanted to get everything in the car and everything like that. And my grandma stayed back home and cleaned up the restroom, got all the blood and stuff out. And she stayed with my son until he woke up, and then they came to the hospital. So we ended up basically staying in the hospital for 24 hours, maybe like 30 hours, because we got there like 8 or 9 o'clock that morning, and we didn't leave the next day till like 12 or 1. So I stayed in the hospital. The baby was healthy. We went home the next day. She was born 7 pounds 5 ounces and 20 inches long. My battery is about to die. That's why I'm talking really fast. But basically, that is my labor and delivery story. I was literally in labor for 2.5 hours. I had an unplanned home birth. My husband was the one who delivered the baby, so it was really crazy, but it's a cool story to tell. I can't wait to tell Hailey as she gets older. We named her Hailey Sarai, so that is her name. She's perfectly healthy. I'm just very grateful that I have such a healthy, pretty baby. She's such a sweetheart. Try to lift her up so y'all can see her. But yeah, she's, oh mama, I'm sorry. I don't think she wants me moving her all around like that. She's saying hi. Say hi, YouTube. Say hi. But yeah, so that is my labor and delivery story. My unplanned home birth. Like I said, 2.5 hours. I had a baby. It was crazy. I wouldn't change it for anything. We actually don't plan on having any more children. So I'm just trying to cherish every single moment with her, of course, because it's going by so fast. She went to the doctor at a month old, and she was 9 pounds and 21 inches. So she's probably around like maybe 10 pounds now. And she is breastfed, but I'm exclusively pumping for now. She does try to latch on every now and then, but that's another story. I'm gonna record a video about my breastfeeding experience because it's much different from with my son, who I nursed almost 2 years. For like 22 months he breastfed. So I'm having a different experience this time, but she is on breast milk, but she is getting it through bottles for right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If y'all have any questions about the labor, just go ahead and leave them down below. Like I said, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. If y'all have any video requests or anything that y'all want to know, just go ahead and leave it down below, and I will go ahead and read those comments and try to respond to as much as I can. But now that I'm a mom of 2 and I have this little newborn, it can be kind of difficult, but I'm gonna try my best. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time.
After her hand again, so this would be a perfect time to put her back to feed her. Let me just write this down.
Hey.
Hi.
Look at her eyes.
Her eyes are very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Look, she started batting her eyes.
Yeah, she's looking at me.
She's like, I know your voice.
Oh yes, she'll recognize you guys. She won't recognize us.
Go sing your song over there. Look at the computer. Look. Sing your song. Do the dance. Show the dance.
It's hard to hold your head and get the back of your head at the same time. Oh. Oh.